Okay. Well, howdy, howdy. My name is Christian Villegas. I'm one of the program developers for the Texas Institute for Leadership and Business Management. As always, I really want to thank our incredible team. I want to thank our guest speakers, our partners, Birdville ISD, Fort Worth ISD, Tarrant County College, UNT Dallas, of course, A&M Commerce, and all of our other friends in the higher education and, of course, high school systems. I also really want to thank a good friend of ours, Zack Abnet, with the American Conservation Coalition. He is joining us today as the guest speaker to delve into professionalism, what that looks like, academics, how you can merge the two, all that good stuff. So we have a really great guy who's been in the field proactively and can give you guys some real world experience and counsel. Kind of like previous sessions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read his bio out loud. That way, you guys all have a chance to hear it if you can't necessarily see it too well from your respective screens. Again, we have some really cool guest speakers that join us, and their stories. Man, it's if you guys can get a chance to pick his brain afterwards, it's always an awesome thing. So for today, Zack Abnet. Zack is the Texas State Director for the American Conservation Coalition, an environmental nonprofit that advocates for market-based, limited government solutions to climate change. As the state director for ACC, Zack oversees the grassroots operations in Texas, helping ACC members start community-based environmental chapters called branches that launch collaborative projects. Zack also helps maintain and build stakeholder relationships and advocacy efforts at the state and federal levels. Born in in the East African nation of Ethiopia, Zack immigrated to the United States at the age of 7. His unique background has shaped his decision to pursue work that serves the public and the environment. And Zack graduated from Texas State University with his BA in political science and a minor in communication. His time in Central Texas has made him a fan of the outdoors and kayaking, and we didn't have enough space to put it, but he's also a really huge fan of the Cowboys. So, Zack, I know this bio doesn't do you justice. You've done a lot more than that. But with that being said, I'll toss it over to you.
Absolutely. Chris, I just want to begin by thanking you and the students that are watching this for this incredible opportunity. If you asked me about 8 to 9 years ago when I was in high school, about me doing this and speaking to others and telling them my story to help them with their journey, whether through academics or their work down the line, I could have not believed it. But I'm very humbled and I'm very happy to be able to provide my insight and my story and help you all get to the places that you want to be and be the people that and do the good work that I'm sure you're all trying to do. So I am happy and here today to talk to you guys about some lessons that I've learned along the way and that has made me successful in the work that I do today, and both lessons that I still use to this day in my current work. And to begin with, Chris gave me a very good introduction there, but I kind of want to get a little into my company and the work that we do and what skills helps with it, and then move forward on to the lessons that help with that work. As Chris mentioned, I'm Texas State Director for the American Conservation Coalition. We are an environmental nonprofit dedicated to two things. On the first and most important side of the work, we help spring up local-based climate movements so people can get inspired, they can get out there and they can do good work that help the environment and that can show people that nobody is powerless in their efforts to affect the climate in a positive way, that climate change is not too large of a challenge for one person to make a difference. And on the other side of our work, as Chris mentioned, we advocate and work for good policies that are both good for people and good for the planet, policies that are easy to do and that are bipartisan in nature, so we actually can meet our climate goals and avert some of the worst problems that come with climate change. And ACC as an organization has existed for 6 years now. We actually just celebrated our sixth birthday last month, and we exist because we've noticed that the current environmental movement, though there is a lot of good passion and very caring people, has a lot of issues with it. Some of it is anger and just misdirected passion, and others the other part of it is some of the policies that are advocated for. So ACC was established with the mission of getting work done, inspiring people, and leading by example. And it is work that I am very proud of and a really great job that I love having. And Chris kind of described some of the operations of our org. I want to talk to some of the skills that are required for the work that I do as state director. Um, with helping the development of these branches, it is work that really requires good interpersonal skills, being able to talk to and work with people and really tell them a good vision of something that they can accomplish through their local branch. And that's something that requires like, really good people skills, being able to really show somebody what good work can look like in the long term. And it's a skill that I've developed over many different things over the past 8 to 10 years, whether it was my involvement in high school, whether it was my college years, or just my some personal things that I've learned in life. And the other part of the job is something that requires me to track projects and be able to keep a long-term vision about the outcome of events and certain projects that are being worked on. And that requires a certain set of systems that I've developed to make these projects come to fruition and end up being successful. And as I go into some of the lessons that I'm here to share with you guys today, we're going to see how, each one of those contributed to the skills that I have today and what makes me successful as somebody who leads a nonprofit's operations here in the state of Texas and somebody who works for work that I think is good. And before I go into that, I think talking a little bit more about my background and my upbringing is going to be valuable to this because so much of the stories that I'm going to talk about are come from my background. The work that a lot of the lessons that I'm going to speak to you guys about today are lessons that I've learned myself and lessons that have helped me. So I think that's the best way that I can speak to you guys. And it's just going to be me directly for the most part. There's not a presentation. A lot of this good information is going to come from stories. So as Chris mentioned, I was born in an East African nation called Ethiopia. I immigrated to the United States at the age of 7. I still remember a life there for the most part. Compared to many, I was privileged there. I had 2 loving parents that worked very hard. I had grandparents that looked after me when they could. And we led a simple but happy life. But at a certain moment, my mom chose to apply for what we call a lottery to be able to get a visa to immigrate to the United States. And that choice, something that she's told me that she did out of whim, out of just taking a chance, profoundly changed the life of myself and my family. Because as while we were happy there, that decision and our ability to move to the United States really gave me and my family the opportunity to really control our destiny. The idea that you can get educated, find a job or a career that has fulfillment and that can give you success, that you can start a small business and turn it into a really wonderful company that can bring about fortune for you and your family and generations of people of your people down the line is something that's very unique in this world and something that a lot of people around the world don't have. So having that ability to move to the United States and being here really changed my life for the better. And that is a lesson that I recognized even then as a 7-year-old, as young as I was. And that is a lesson that I still carry to this day and that still inspires the work that I do. So, knowing that and knowing that at the time, I've always known enough, not knowing the career that I wanted to go into as young as 7, or maybe even when I was as young as 10, I knew at the very least that whatever work that I ended up doing, I want to do work that gives back to the world, that makes the world a better place than I've adopted it. Work that's going to give my kids and my grandkids a better situation than I adopted, as my parents did for me. And at around the age of 12 to 13, I came to a realization, just because of kind of my passion for it, I came to a realization that this work is probably going to be something in politics or public office. I felt that for me to change the world and for me to make things better, whether it's in service of people or the environment or just good in general, it would be through public office. And that's something that I still carry with me, though I've learned some good lessons along the way. And, you know, how I got into politics is something that just naturally always, interested me. I remember one of my earliest memories of me kind of paying attention to politics was way back in 2004 when Bush won re-election. I remember being in Ethiopia, actually seeing that on TV, and I couldn't speak English at the time, but I remember just seeing the happiness on his face and him being re-elected and just seeing that, you know, this is how kind of politics and power works, and just naturally having an interest there. And through the years, I've paid attention. I've become a really good nerd for politics to the point where I surprised even my teachers and adults in my life when I was young, knowing things that not even they knew, just because of my just general interest in politics. And this actually gets me going into the very first lesson that I want to talk to you guys about today. Um, it's one of three lessons, and like I said, they're lessons that have helped me and contributed to my kind of success in life and where I am today, and lessons that I still use. But the first one is pretty simple and straightforward, but very impactful. And I'm sure you guys have heard from many that when there's passion and like for what you do in life, whether it be work or those around us or small things that we have to take care of, it goes a long way in making work easier. And for many of us, I've heard the quote, love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. While there's some truth to that, it's not the full picture. Anything worth doing is anything worth doing requires a little bit of work. My job has a lot of projects that I do in it, projects and presentations that take weeks at a time to put together. And while the final product is something that I love and something that I'm proud of because it represents me and my company and it shows the hard work that was put behind it by many others, most people don't see the work that leads up to it. And what makes me go through those days of work that's not particularly fun or work that's really repetitive and that requires me to be consistent and pay attention is just passion for what I do, knowing that I am doing work that actually impacts people for the better. And working in a field that I have just natural interest in. And I have a couple of examples about how, that's good. And this really starts with my time in high school. So around 10th, my sophomore year of high school, by then I knew that I was interested in politics and something that I wanted to do down the line, but I didn't know how I was going to do it, whether I was going to go to college and pursue a degree and go to law school afterwards, or immediately kind of try to work for a campaign or intern that way. There was many different avenues that I could do that. But in high school at the time, I was on the high school football team. I've always been an athlete. I've loved sports. Like Chris mentioned, I'm a huge fan of the Cowboys. And at the time, I noticed that football wasn't doing the good that I thought it would do for me. That the passion was starting to kind of wane away. While I loved watching it, it wasn't as fun to kind of play it. So I remember I dropped out of the football team. I told my coach, like, coach, it's not doing the good that I think it's doing for me. I don't think I could be as good. I can't contribute as good as I want to anymore. So I'm gonna kind of step aside and let somebody else, take the position there. And I could have stepped out of football and just enjoyed my free time, just hanging out with friends and doing things and this and that. But what I learned quickly was, and this is from talking to some of the adults in my life, which is going to be another lesson that I'm going to speak to a little down the line. I was told, like, take this time, get into things that might interest you. Maybe get into some things that don't sound interesting at first, but that could help you. And I took the time that I was spending in football, and I joined my speech and debate team, and I joined my Model UN team for the school. And that taught me a really good lesson about kind of just exploring things and getting into them and seeing what I find interest in. And I just realized quickly that I had a love for speech and debate. If there's any speech and debate kids from high school that are watching this, I think many of you know this and understand this. But I found a really good sense of purpose in it. It showed me how to work hard and work towards things and just how to be really successful and to compete and to have fun and to work alongside teammates. And that kind of fed into my ultimate decision to, go into a degree in political science, but also do speech and debate and Model UN in college, and also kind of pursue work that really requires me to my prepare my arguments and prepare kind of the purpose for the thing that I do and the thing that I'm fighting for, and really believe in what I'm speaking to and not just saying it for the sake of winning. Um, and to this day, that's something that I love and I'm something that I appreciate that I did. But it's kind of a realm of a realm of good that I got into because I decided to pursue something that I was naturally interested in. And I say this the same for all of you. You might not know directly what you want to do down the line. You might not know what you want to do yet, but explore, try to get into things, and try to join orgs, whether they be at your school or outside of your school. And you don't know what you might find there. It might just be something that's fulfilling that you could do for the rest of your life. The second lesson that I want to go into, and this is, I think, the most important one because it applies to everything else that I'm going to talk about today, um, is, how you do anything is how you do everything. And what do I mean by that? It means that in life, there are small tasks here and there. Some of them are tasks that you have to take care of, or something that others are asking you to do. But often enough, and I've been guilty of this, we look at certain tasks and certain jobs as like, hey, I just have to do the bare minimum, take care of it, and get out of the way, and then I'll put my full effort into something that's important. If you want to compare it to the academic life, you can kind of take care of your quizzes, your tasks, your homework to the bare minimum as you go, and then when the finals come, and you kind of have to do well to make sure that your grade ends up well for that semester. You're going to put all your efforts into studying for that test, and that's how a lot of us approach certain things. But what I've learned, and I've learned this in many different examples through the years, is if you put your full effort and your full dedication into this tasks that seem even small, it kind of teaches you to build a system of doing something right. So when the larger task comes at hand, when the one that you think is important comes, like you're able to do it, and it's much easier to do it. And the other side of that also is, you know, people will often judge you, and you don't expect this until you learn it. Sometimes in a bad way, is people judge you for how you do the smaller things. I'll give this example. My first job was at Whataburger. It was a minimum wage job. I did it just so I could be able to afford a couple of extra nice things that I wanted while I was in high school. And I thought I just have to show up, maybe flip some burgers, maybe work the drive-through line. And I'm a small part of this. This is going to take no effort. I can even have my headphones while I do this job. And my manager kind of dissuaded me of that very quickly because one, I made the mistake of not paying attention enough to where I messed up an order and it held up the line, and it got a lot of people angry at us because if you've ever been to a busy Whataburger, you see that that's a well-oiled machine. Everybody has work in a small part of that operation to make it go well and to make it go quick and to get people their really good food and get them out the store. And if somebody's not taking their job seriously, things can kind of go wrong quickly. But what I learned then is, like, if you can't give your effort to that and you can't do that correctly, how are you going to do the larger projects well down the line? To kind of give a sports analogy there, some people are so skilled to where they feel like they don't need to practice, or they don't even need to try and practice, and that they can just do it all through the games. And that might work for you in high school. It might even work for you at a smaller college. But as the higher up you go, you kind of realize you have to give effort and dedication and practice, so that translates well to, like, when game time comes, when you're on the field or when you're on the court. And that's kind of a lesson that I learned long ago. And a good example of it during my college years is, I've always been into writing, and writing is something that I've loved to do. But during college, it wasn't something that I gave my full effort. Of course, I followed the prompt and did the minimum to take care of that assignment, and maybe I'd get a B plus and an A minus when the assignment was much easier. But during my junior year, there was a course that I took for my comms minor. And the really nice thing about that course is, since so much of it was writing intensive, the syllabus told us, the syllabus is, guys, since you're in high school, the syllabus tells you just the general outline of the class, what's required of you, how grades are rated. That syllabus had much more information than other classes, where it told you all the assignments leading up to even the final for that course, which was a big research paper. So during the second one, I submitted it, and having a passion for writing and kind of knowing the subjects that we were covering, the TA that graded it said, "Hey, I could tell, like, there's some skill here and you really like writing, but I could tell you're not putting your full effort into it." And just having kind of that lesson of, by in anything that you do in the back of my head, I got ahead of the final kind of essay that was required for that course way before it was actually announced by the teacher for us to start doing it. And what I saw quickly was, I got into the project, I did the extra that was required of it. I had it read multiple times. And, when finals were done and we were done, uh, by the time that paper was graded, we didn't have any more class. The teacher would email us our final grade via email, and we'd know what we got in that class. We got an A plus on the paper, but beyond that, the teacher actually ended up telling me that the paper was so well that she actually recommended it to kind of industry journal for the course that we were taking. So it was just kind of a really good example of something that I put dedication and effort into, and something that turned out really well for me. And even to this day, I mentioned earlier that parts of my job require me to put together projects and put together events that that can range as small as a small event in the community with maybe 10 attendees to something so large that we have 30 to 50 people to where it's getting media coverage by local news, and it represents both me and my company, it's something that a lot of people can be proud of. And I put the same level of effort and dedication to both those type of events, because if I can do the one well, the other one is going to go just as well too, because I've built a system to properly do that work. And there was a book that I read last year. This is a lesson that I've known for quite a while, and a lesson that I've seen kind of be um, reiterated to me in multiple ways. But I read a book last year that really kind of put a kind of a clarity to this lesson about putting effort into anything that you do. And it's a really good book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Um, and I'll make sure to pass it on to Chris. So if anybody's interested in reading that book, we'll make sure to have the details. But there's a quote in there about this is before I read the quote, this is a book largely about systems and how if you have a good system, you can apply it to anything that you do. And a good system will bring you success in the smallest task, from the smallest task to the largest tasks. But in the book, he says, you do not rise to the level of your goals, but you fall to the level of your systems. And there's so much in that. But people often enough set high goals and they'll say, I'll try like when the time comes. But if you don't have a good system behind it that has taught you to achieve those goals through a very dedicated, well thought out process, you're not going to be able to reach that goal when things get tough or when a certain challenge comes in the way. So, a good system and knowing that like that system can apply to any task, no matter how small or large, will just make things much more productive for you and easier for you to achieve certain things down the line. And the third lesson, this one is very small, very straightforward, but very, very important because it applies to the last two as well. And it is, kindness and respect, particularly for the people that have come before us, particularly that for the people that teach us and that can show us down the path that we want to go down, can go a long way in life. And with this, I want to kind of provide a clarity. In work, people oftentimes think that, just being nice or kind of going the extra mile to do something good is, you do that to advance in your career or to ingratiate yourself towards somebody or to do it for the purpose of just getting good out of it, almost transactionally. But when I say this, I'm telling I'm telling you all to take a genuine care and like that person that can be a mentor to you or somebody that can help you out or somebody that has come before you or that has done the work before you. And this is a lesson that I've seen work out so many times in life and my current career. Um, you know, Whether it be just make going out of my way to remember somebody's name that I've met and maybe something that happened 4 weeks ago, or checking up on their work and reading up on their work and the career that they've put into the field, and not just saying like, a person is old, I'll kind of figure it out on my own. I've noticed that that has gone a long way, and it's often surprised me because, I'm a person where kindness and good manners just comes naturally to me. Like it almost feels effortless sometimes. But, even with that, like in the instances where I've taken an extra step to see, like, to ask myself, maybe that person knows something that I don't, or maybe that person has a background and a history that they might not have revealed, but it could be rewarding to me. And there's been instances where I've done that and gone the extra mile to check up on that person or ask them or ask for advice from them. And that's come back and rewarded me in so many different ways. And the one example is a retired man here in Central Texas. I work out of Austin now, even though I grew up in the Dallas area. He worked in the energy industry and currently kind of advises people in the climate movement because he has experience in an industry that's going to be very much affected by our trying to reach our climate goals. And I met him at an event for another organization, exchanged business cards. But when I did a quick Google search and kind of read upon his history and his writings and his work, I decided to ask him about a single question and found out that this man has so much knowledge and wisdom about how to move forward in this field and in this work. And to this day, he's a good friend of mine. And what I've noticed since then is he actually goes out of his way to provide me insights and knowledge and certain resources that I hadn't even asked for just because I took the kind of extra step to be nice to that person and to ask them. about their work. And well, another thing that I've noticed along these lines is the older folks, heck, even people in their 30s, they love a very dedicated young person. They want to provide him advice because they want to see people succeed, and but they will look for the kids person that's willing to kind of look for that advice and willing to take it seriously. So take that lesson in mind and see, and you'll see how far it will take you, whether you're in high school, college, or in your career down the line. So just to kind of go through the three lessons that I spoke to, passion and love for what you do can go a long way in helping you find the career that you find, or the fulfilling work that you'll have down the line. And a really good way of finding that is just getting involved, um, whether it's at your high school or locally. And lesson two is, how you do anything is how you do everything, of course. So, you put dedication and passion into even the smallest works, and if you give them the respect that they deserve, that work will show, and it'll make tougher tasks slash larger projects down the line, whether it's academically or in life. It'll make it so much better, and your work will be so much more fulfilling. And then number three, kindness and respect for those that came before you, and just a willingness to hear from people that have done it can go a long way in helping you in your in life. And I quickly want to show how I still use. I know we're going late into the time, but I quickly want to show how I still use some of these lessons to this day. So I graduated from college in 2020. While like I mentioned, I did love politics and I do love the work. Around that time, I noticed that a lot of the talk around politics, a lot of the passion and anger around politics was unproductive. We weren't, whichever side of the aisle we were on, I noticed that we weren't selling a vision of hope, and we weren't giving people, actual solutions. So with things being the way they were, and COVID happening, and my family being impacted by kind of how COVID turned because we are business owners, I stepped away from politics the moment I graduated, and I decided to kind of help them with our family business and provide my insight there instead of immediately jumping into politics after graduation. And about a year into it, I kind of remembered why I wanted to go into this level of work and why I wanted to do work that I did. So when I wanted to step back into things, I remembered the lesson about, like, okay, you want to do something that you're passionate about and something that you like, and I want to do work that serves people. I want to do work that gives people hope and gives people, and that takes care of the environment. And I looked around, and I wasn't in college anymore, so there was no college clubs that I could join. But I found ACC, and the person who actually got me into ACC and got me involved and got me into these projects that ACC was known for, projects that served the community, was actually Chris, our host today. So that was kind of one way, and that first lesson really came to mind when I wanted to step back into the work that I do. Um, as for the second one, the second lesson on how you do it, anything is how you do everything. Like I mentioned earlier, I have projects and work that range from small local ones that don't have too large of impact, to large ones that impacts myself, my organization, the people that I represent, and a community. And I give effort to both. I give the same level of effort to both. And the third lesson about kindness and respect from that people that came before us, I gave an example of that already, but that's just something that I continue to do and something that I've found fulfilling every single day. Some smaller lessons I'll go through really quickly, and something that I've come to myself is there is no dumb questions. It's better to ask things no matter where you are, whether it's in high school, whether you're in class. Clarity and knowing something now and asking it now before it's time for you to take that test, or it's time for you to do that thing that you learned about. Always better to ask while you can still ask and not wait, because your lack of knowledge on that thing will eventually show, and you don't want it to come during a time that'd be quite it could be quite impactful. And then hard work always shows. Hard work will always prevail, but presentation matters too. You don't want to just work hard, and when it's time to present, you don't want to just come unprepared and not looking your best. So that's your best, look your best, and present the work that you've done. Um, and relationships. Part of my job is to kind of maintain relationships. Relationships should be tender. They should be taken care of, because you might not immediately get something good out of that relationship, but there might come a moment where that relationship might prove valuable, and that person's gonna help you out a lot. And So take care of relationships, check after people, work with them, and know that like if somebody's going to help you, you have to help them too. So it goes both ways. That's kind of my 3 good lessons for Phil and a couple of small other ones. And I'm more than happy to take answer your questions about the work that I do or anything else.
Yeah, this is awesome. So, real quick, for the students that have questions, definitely put them in the chat so Zach can kind of, pick and choose. And while you guys are doing that, Zach, I do have actually a question that hopefully helps the student. I know in high school, I was still trying to learn how to communicate with adults. And when I say that, I mean, like, for example, I was in teen court. So, I got to do debating kind of like you for the city, but I was still a goofy high schooler. And even into college, I regret to say I was kind of goofy up until probably my junior year. How is there any advice that you would give the students so they can start refining how, for example, they communicate with their teachers, their principals, and other people in the community? That way, they're building that experience. They're going through that learning curve of dialect and body posture, so that when for whatever reason they randomly meet someone that's a really high up community member, that person sees someone unique and might have more incentive to want to talk to that student afterwards or coach them, kind of like you had coaching.
Absolutely. This actually reminds me of my speech and debate days because my coach was actually the teacher for the speech course that everybody was required to take, and she taught me a couple of profound lessons around this. And it's part of it is very simple. If it's an ask of an adult, you know, sometimes we often, and I still do this to this day, sometimes we often think big words and kind of making an ask can see does make makes it more likely that that ask is answered. But I say be straightforward, know what you want out of that conversation, and if it requires practice beforehand, because like for some of you, I get nervous when I am speaking to somebody that might be kind of above me, or even when I was in high school, it might be somebody that's visiting, or the principal who might have scared me a little bit. Practice the question inside, ask yourself, and try to find the most straightforward way to say it with confidence, which chests up with a clear voice. And that person, once they identify what you're asking them, they will do most of the talking, and they will likely kind of answer what you're trying to, the thing that you're asking, or provide the help that you're asking of them. So be straightforward, be confident, and make sure that you can be heard clearly. Something very simple, but something that can go a long way. And often enough, adults recognize when somebody's actually giving something their effort, and if there's a small mistake made along the way, it will help you in fixing that, or help you in doing it better. And with anything, the more you do it, the better you get at it. I am a person that easily gets nervous around certain things, and have gotten to be able to speak to rooms of hundreds of peoples, or present in front of cameras and do something like this where I'm recorded and that it get passed on, is because I've tried and failed multiple times, and that can go a long way in helping you. I hope that answers that question, Chris. I hope that.
No, I think it does. And I guess if I was a kid, I'd probably reprise. It seems like the core point is be straightforward, be clear and concise, and know what you want, so that when you convey that message in a polite manner, it's easy for them to say yes or no, I guess.
Absolutely.
So for all the students, I know we have 10 minutes for Q&A today. If you guys have questions, definitely feel free to put them in the chat. Or if your instructor's okay with it, you can ask it over the mic, however you all want to do it. But this is a great opportunity. This is a state director. Having been in Zach's shoes myself, I can't understate how exciting and how interesting his role is, because you really do travel the whole state. And then you do go to DC every so often as well. So if you guys want good counsel on how you can get the ball rolling on your careers and being more professional, this is probably a good safe starting point.
Absolutely. And while if feel free to interrupt me while I'm talking if you have any questions, or writing them into the chat. But I'll show this example real quick. I mentioned at the beginning that I knew my work in public office or politics would be something that I know could do the most for the world. and kind of help me give back to kind of a world that's given so much to me. One profound lesson that I've learned since then, and even in the work that I do now, is changing policy, changing rules, changing laws. It doesn't strictly that's not work that strictly comes from you holding public office. There are many organizations that do advocacy, kind of like ACC. There are many things that you could do from the outside or do alongside people that are elected officials to make a difference. And that you don't always have to be an elected official. You don't always have to work in politics to be able to make good change in life. So that's just one good lesson that I've learned and something that I see in my day-to-day job. Because I affect policy here on a state level, and that's through my work with ACC and through the volunteers that we have. Um,
So we're not seeing any questions just yet. And again, if if the faculty and staff have questions, Zach's a great guy to touch bases with while we have them. To throw a little plug for ACC, Zach's the Texas State Director, which means that you guys live in Texas. He's someone that you could technically reach out to collaborate with. And playing off of what Zach had said about professionalism, a lot of your ability to be effective as a professional comes from just experience, doing the work. So, for example, Zach mentioned community projects. A project he did last year, if I recall correctly, was we planted some trees in partnership with the Haltom City Fire Department. Got some volunteers out there, and that's a small project, but it's a big deal because it gives the volunteers a chance to network with community members that are important, and that can give them good counsel. Gives you a chance to build your resume and to do some good. So for those of y'all that are juniors or maybe sophomores and want to build your resume now, get some experience, and you like doing something perhaps with the fire department or the police or the environment or even another branch of the community, yeah, you have the resources through Zach and ACC because his job is legitimately giving you guys funding to do projects that are good for the environment and the community. Um, I know one that I did with ACC was in Dallas. I think if I recall correctly, we helped build basically a food farm with a literal urban food farm, and we had, I don't know, like 60, 70 people show up. um, so it's environmental, but it can tie into someone's individual passion. It looks like someone has a question though, so I'll stop talking, but that's just a plug for ACC. And for you guys to know, this guy Zach, unlike other guest speakers, can actively, directly, immediately work with you, which is a big deal. It's a privilege for us in many ways.
I'd love to answer that. So that I say this because I know others who've immigrated here, maybe in middle school or in high school or even later in their years. But I was lucky to come at the time that I did because that first year of living in the States and having to learn a second language was not easy. When you speak to other immigrants, you often hear how, media, whether it be TV or movies, kind of help contribute to you learning English. But what did it for me was just kind of a genuine effort in trying to make friends because I went to school and then there was a daycare service that I went to after school while my parents were working. So I was I wasn't around others who could speak Amharic in that first couple of years. So I had to genuinely try to learn the language quickly to be able to make friends and communicate with others. So while it wasn't easy, others helped. There were some really good friend. I had a really good friend who actually took time out of their day to actually help me learn the language. The nice thing is, my accent went away pretty quickly, but it still comes out sometimes when I speak fast or when I try to when it's been a long day and comes out. I am proud to say that I still know the language that I spoke then, so it's something that I love to be able to do. Say that I speak a whole other language. Let's see, we have another question here. Have you ever considered any potential drawbacks or challenges when you started your career? Um, with my current job, the initial challenge was the travel. As Chris mentioned, I travel all around Texas, helping branches develop and grow. So that was kind of the tough part at the beginning, not maybe spending not sleeping on the same bed, staying in hotels here and there. And when you're trying to kind of develop a branch in Texas, you have to do a bit of tabling and recruitment, and often at times that effort doesn't immediately grow. So that's kind of some of the drawbacks, but the work is so rewarding, and seeing people kind of put their time and effort, you know, oftentimes, free time that they have without getting paid into building local environmental movements, it really inspires me and continues to make me move forward in this role. So that really helps me uh kind of put aside the drawbacks of the work. And then we have another longer one here. um, my name is Manesi, and my story is pretty similar to yours. I was born in the Congo, Africa, and my parents also brought me and my siblings here through a lottery like you, which I love hearing that. And I love seeing somebody who can share that story there. And I hope I can be a help. I'm going to read out the rest of your questions. I was just wondering how your mentality has grown from when you were in high school to now. Also, how a high schooler now could try to get ahead in life and the common struggles that you will face because it won't be easy. Like I said, what really changed things for me and what really moved me forward in some achieving some of my goals. It happened, and I don't know if you got to see most of all of my presentation there, but my sophomore year was really the my sophomore year of high school was the turnaround for me, and it was due to kind of my willingness to join the orgs that my high school offered, and having that community of people who shared kind of the same liking for my passion in politics and my passion for debating ideas and talking. So I think what's going to help you both if your high school offers it is the student orgs. And if it's outside of your school, that's a local organization that's doing some work or that's providing time, because one, it's that's going to be something productive that you can do, but you'll get to meet really good people in there. Maybe people that might share your story and your kind of background there. So I hope that answers your question. And maturity is something that's on a scale. I still continue to mature this to this day. I still learn new lessons. I still learn new skills. And with everything, the standard is constantly raised higher and higher. You do your first successful project, and while you can celebrate and be happy, what's the next one going to be like? How can you improve that? How can you apply it to the next project that you're going to do? I have another question there. What part of Ethiopia are you from? I was born in the capital, Addis Ababa, which means new flower. That's where I went to school. That's where, like I said, I grew up until the age of 7. And that's where, the part of the country that I'm known uh, that that I've been to so far. I visited Ethiopia one time since I came back here, but that visit back really just reignited kind of my passion for doing work that's going to serve others and change the world for the better. Because I remember going back and seeing family friends and family members that I remember even before I left, and talking to them about so many of the opportunities that we have here in the States, and then realizing that even the most basic things like a really good public school system, having the opportunity to do orgs and to do sports at school was it's a privilege that a lot of places don't have. Seeing the school that they went to when I went back on the trip really just kind of touched the spot in my heart that said, like, you have a really good opportunity and where you're from. Remember that when you go back, and remember to take advantage of that opportunity and to try to do good and to improve your life and to improve the lives of your future kids. So yeah, but that's kind of Ethiopia. And to know a little more about the country, it's roughly a little bit bigger than Texas, but it's a terrain that's really that there's high mountains and high hills, and there's savanna lands. It's a very diverse and large country. And if you guys are ever interested in taking a trip there, it'd be cool. Um, but yeah, I hope I answered all your questions there. Chris, anything from you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know we only have a few minutes left, guys. If you have any last questions, now is probably the time. And while we're waiting for the last few questions, I'm going to really quickly screen share just so the students get a quick update on programming. So for those of y'all that are not yet enrolled, TILBM, obviously, we work with great folks to get guest speakers like Zach to join y'all throughout the school year. But we also have the Parchment program. This is where we more directly work with you guys one on one. For example, tomorrow at the cab, we're going to be doing free professional headshots for students that are interested. So if you guys haven't had a chance to enroll, it's optional, but by doing so, it does make it easier for me or my colleagues to connect with you and see where you are professionally and academically, so we can kind of walk you through the process. So real quick, that way you guys, if you haven't had a chance again to watch the orientation, you would just go to the website, scroll down here, and real quick, can everyone see this, by the way, just to make sure? Perfect, perfect. You would just click here, and then again, it's a sub portal. All you have to do is click the application right here. That way, your teachers, your respective principal, and I myself are aware that you're interested in getting more direct support. And kind of playing off of what Zach said, we can be those initial mentors that watch your back. So just wanted to flag that for you guys if you haven't had a chance to look at it yet. It's really simple. It looks like we have so Zach just shared the book. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. I know we're in the last 2 minutes of the session, and I want to respect Zach's time. So, Zach, do you any last pieces of advice for the students as they get back to school and get back to just doing what they do?
Absolutely. I'll say this because I'm somebody who's gone through struggles. I'm somebody who's not always known, like while I'm here and am able to give you guys some of these lessons that have done so much good for me. To this day I still, sometimes don't know the clear answer to things or don't know the exact thought. And there will be setbacks in life. You may not get into the dream school that you're trying to get into right away, but just keep along with things, stay dedicated, and remember like the larger long-term goal that you have, because to get to that goal, it might not be a straight line. You might have to go through certain challenges to get into the school that you love. You might have to maybe do a year at a smaller school or transfer over, but it's the end goal that matters. And if you put the work in and you stay dedicated and you work hard, you will reach that goal. And I hope that can help you. And nobody is 100% certain. So uncertainty will come up for all of us, but don't be afraid to reach out to others and ask for advice or ask people that have come before us, because you'd be surprised how much help they can provide. And you'd be surprised that uh, oftentimes it's an issue that others have gone through, and they might be able to offer you an answer that you might not have. So I hope that helps. With that, thank you for this incredible opportunity to speak to you guys today and provide this insight. And I wish the best of luck for all of you, and that you find work that you love and care for like I have.
No, thank you so much again, Zach, as well. I mean, I know the students are running to their next class, but this is always awesome. Like I do appreciate it, and thank you again to the ISDs for taking some time out of your teaching schedule to tag in with us for this live. Thanks to the folks that are going to pass us the recording on afterwards. And yeah, y'all have a great weekend, and thank you again, Zach. I will hopefully see you very soon when I'm in Austin.
Yes, sir.
All right, y'all have a good one.